Hi everyone, my name is Farabi Khaleque. You might know me as the founder of CLOUDZILLA, an award-winning wellness media organization dedicated to empowering the next generation. I started CLOUDZILLA with the simple belief that stories have the power to inspire can create change. That belief is what led me to create the Good Quest podcast. Throughout this podcast, I've had the opportunity to sit down with remarkable people and hear the stories behind their success, resilience, and impact. Before we begin, I want to thank you for being here, whether you're listening for a new perspective or just simply here to hear someone else's story. I hope this podcast reminds you that every journey is unique, every challenge can teach us something, every story has the power to make an impact. Take a moment, be present, and enjoy the conversation. Welcome to The Good Quest. Today's guest is someone who didn't wait to grow up before attempting to change the world. She's a gender equality activist from Istanbul, Turkey. Selin, thank you so much for joining us on The Good Quest today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's my absolute pleasure. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm so honored to meet you as well. Your story is so inspiring. So, Selin, for the people who may be hearing your name for the very first time, how would you describe who you are? What drives you to keep doing what you do?
I'm a university student, first and foremost. I'm a senior international relations student, but beyond that, I'm a gender equality activist and also a youth activist. So what drives me is basically the world. And just, turning on the news is very much okay to, keep doing what I'm doing. Since I was little, I've always been interested in, social norms and culture and traditions. And I know we'll dive deeper into it, so I'm not going to spoil anything. But then something clicked, and I found myself as a gender equality activist, I guess.
Listening to you, it feels like this wasn't something you planned beforehand, like on a whiteboard. I feel like it's something that found you. Do you feel activism is something that chose you, or did you consciously end up choosing it based on your own, lived experiences?
I think it's a little bit of both. Because, even when I was little, my parents always told me that I'm like a good storyteller, or I really like to talk to people, or kind of debate and try to convince people. You know how, they tell little kids that oh, you should be a lawyer. Yeah. Just stating that they're good at annoying people and debating. So that was me. And I've always been interested in global gender norms and just social norms and culture in general. And I feel like I was raised very in a very feminist household as well, so I'm pretty sure that also plays into what I'm doing right now. And again, it's when you're doing the advocacy work, you have to be very much out there, be willing to get into kind of hard conversations, or be really present when you sometimes feel like you can't be present, or you don't know how to be present. And again, debate and really try to prove point. And also, especially with gender equality, because it's so polarized and it's very much politicized, I feel like it's kind of hard to get people together. But also, trying to show people that we need to work together. I'm not doing anything against you. I'm trying to do something that is going to benefit all of us. So I think it's kind of found me, but I guess with my personality, I also kind of brought it to myself. I don't know. Kind of a mixture.
Your very first step that you ever did in the activism world was reaching out to UN Women, which is a pretty big step already. Then you ended up starting to work with major global organizations. That's not a small leap, it's a pretty big leap. How did you get it started, and what was your first real step that made everything else possible?
I think just simply sending that not one email. There were a lot of emails, but I sent it to UN Women HQ because I didn't know what I was doing. If the current Selin, what I would do would be, trying to reach out to, check out the people from UN Women Turkey's website and try to reach out to them, but not knowing what I was doing because, let's face it, I was 15. So I just, took a very kind of bold step, and it turned into something completely different that I could have never expected. One leap would be, I guess, even when UN Women like from the New York team answered my email. That was like kind of a pretty big deal for
Yeah.
me, because I wanted to bring he for she movement to like Turkish high schools, because he for she wasn't present in Turkey amongst high schools, and they gave me their full approval and even sent me kind of materials so I could get started. So that was a pretty big thing. But then I feel like the more like, wow factor was when I got invited to Generation Equality Forum by the French Minister of like Foreign Affairs. I was like,
Wow.
oh yeah, like why? That's crazy. So, just that event and like how that kind of unraveled was genuinely different. It was like a big dramatic leap, and it was also kind of like a wake up moment for me, being like, oh, okay, so we're doing something, we're onto something. So basically, what happened was, again, I wanted to do he for she, right? And the reason for that was actually my mom, because my mom knew I wanted to do something and I was interested. So shout out to mom. And she said she accidentally gave me a wrong information that turned out to be the best thing. And the next day I went to the teachers at my high school, and they were like, no, actually, we don't even know what that is. We don't have a club like that. So he for she being affiliated with UN Women and me wanting to bring he for she to my high school was the reason why I reached out to UN Women, and it was a blessing.
You mentioned he for she. Could you explain what that is for anyone that may not have heard of it?
Of course. So he for she is a gender equality movement started by UN Women. They're working with governments, sports teams, private sector as well, or big movie stars like Emma Watson. And basically, we advocate for gender equality. Yes, global gender equality for sure. But at the same time, one of the main things about he for she is in the name itself. It's about inviting men and boys into the conversation, and like inviting them and telling them that they also have to be a part of it, and like kind of have that space. Because oftentimes I feel like when we talk about global gender equality or feminism, women are more inclined to do something about it, and like not inclined. Well, what is the word? Like more likely, they're
More
more like,
willing. Yeah.
yeah, I was like, oh, I can't find a word. I'm not a native speaker. Women and girls are more likely to do something, like take a step. However, because I guess because of the name itself, and again the social norms, the culture, and everything, and like what a feminist looks like, boys and men have a harder time or like joining the conversation, or feeling like secure enough to even say that they're a feminist. That's also a big problem, and he for she is exactly trying to deal with that.
I want to shift the conversation for a moment because so much of your journey has been about systems, leadership, and impact. But there was a personal turning point that shaped kind of everything that came after, right?
Yeah.
You've spoken in the past about your younger brother once said something that quietly but completely just shifted your path. Can you take us into that moment?
My brother hates when I tell this story, because like the other day he was like, "Can you just stop telling it out?" And I said, "I
No.
can't. Sorry. People are asking, and it's a big thing." So because he's like, "I'm a changed person now." I think he was 6 when he said that, and now he's 13, 14. And like it also puts things into perspective. I'm like, whoa, it's been
It's been a
lot
long
of,
time.
yeah. So I was in, again, high school, and my brother was only like 6 or 7. And we were just having a casual family dinner and talking about my future plans, because, I needed to figure out what I wanted to study at which uni, and then also obviously finding a job, etc. And I was like, I remember being very stressed. And my brother said, and I don't think he was coming from a bad place, but he said, well, why are you getting so worried about it? Worst case scenario, if you can't get into a good uni or get a good job, worst case scenario, you can just get married and do whatever. Whereas as a man, like, I have to find a good job, like get paid well, because I am the one who has to take care of the family. And I was like, whoa, because we didn't see that in my family, or nor in our circle. That's why I always believed that we were raised in a very feminist equal household. But then my brother was saying something that was like the proof of opposite of that. So I was very shocked, and it was a moment where I realized, okay, it's not only about us, our families, our circles, but people as humans, we get affected by everything. Like, the country you're living in, the neighborhood you're living in, the music you're listening to, the movies you're watching, or just normal social norms, like just sexist jokes that are very much in our lives. So you just get you experience all of these things, and yeah, like we are living in a gender unequal world, and apparently, as we can see from my brother, they still get raised by that, by that standard, unfortunately. And I thought, these little kids are not going to stay little forever. They're going to be the leaders of tomorrow. They're going to, become the doctors, the leaders of tomorrow. So we need to break the cycle. We need to break the cycle so that this doesn't, just continue going. And that was the fuel, the drive.
It was a moment of clarity in your life, I believe.
Yes.
Absolutely. And I want to ask, you've talked about, so many feelings and just everything going on in the world. What did anxiety look like for you at that age? Because I assume with everything going on, that was something that was happening to you.
Yeah. Well, I always had anxiety. I've been very open about that. And I also worked with a couple of NGOs about that as well, because I really value it. So I do have anxiety, even before activism work, I always had anxiety. And I feel like it worsened with activism in the sense that, it's kind of turned into an imposter syndrome, and I started having anxiety due to that. I felt like I was doing something wrong. I felt like I didn't deserve to be there. No, I wasn't actually good enough, and I was putting a stunt and, just kind of playing celebrity or something like that, or just, seeming like doing something on social media, but in real life I wasn't doing enough. All those thoughts were just, in my head and kind of shouting. So it turned into a massive imposter syndrome, and it's definitely triggered my anxiety and kind of vice versa. And it was rough.
You're in these spaces, right? You're the youngest person
Yes.
in the rooms most of the time. What's it like actually when you're in those rooms, when these big decisions are being made? What's going on through your mind?
Well, I mean, it's genuinely great, of course. It's a pleasure, and it's an honor for sure. But at the same time, again, the imposter syndrome, and also majority of the time, you're not actually being listened. That's my problem. We're being taken seriously. Unfortunately, a lot of the organizations, what they do is they invite young people and youth activists so they can tick boxes from their diversity checklist. That's a massive issue that me and all my friends really talk about, and we try to address this with the organizations as well, because really big organizations or international organizations also do that. So again, even when you feel like you deserve to be there, the people who invite you most of the time don't think that. You're just the diversity checklist thingy. You're just a little box. You oftentimes you do feel bad. And every time, even now, every time I'm actually being listened to, I think it's kind of changed because I am 23 now, and I guess that's why. But at the same time, I'm still one of the youngest when I enter a room, and it's always, and especially when I was 16, 17, and being a girl, they're "Oh, sweetie, you're so cute, you're so sweet," or where you're trying to have a serious conversation, and all they see is a little child thinking she's doing something, but not really. So that can be very tricky, making sure that your voice is actually being heard, and you are actually at the table rather than just having literally a chair. So that's a big problem.
So crazy, because they should be putting young people's voices forward, right? When something like that happens, how do you even respond to a situation like that?
Like, to be honest, in the past years, I would just brush it under the carpet because, what am I gonna do? And I also wanted to, keep getting invited. I didn't want to, like, disrupt or like cause a scene because I'm like, well, at least I can do something. Like, if I'm here, at least I can do maybe something. What if they stop inviting young people because, like, we are not listening to them, well, because we're quote unquote like causing trouble or making noise. I was like, it's so important for us to be here, so let's just play along. But now I'm kind of done with that. I'm like, I can't take it anymore. And again, because I feel like because we kind of enabled that, it got never, we weren't able to get past that. So now I remember one time I was at this meeting, and I think it was like this summer, with like, again, like very high like level like people, etc. And they were talking about what young women who are about to get into the the job, like the marketplace, need in their lives. And they were all talking, brainstorming for hours and just like very seriously just discussing, which I appreciate. And then there was me, and like no one asked me what I was thinking. And I was like, okay, we're not doing this. I was like, as the only person, I raised my hand. I was like, as the only person in this room who fits the description, let me talk.
Yeah.
I'm gonna talk as much as I want, and you'll listen because I am a young woman who's gonna step into the job market, and like I'm freaking out. I have needs and wants, so help me out here.
Absolutely, you're in these spaces a lot, but not only that, you've built your own spaces, you've built your own platforms as well. You built Girl Up Istanbul, Girls Who Code Turkey, you've done mentorship, STEM access to girls, mental health advocacy, and out of everything you've built so far, how was that experience like going out and just starting to create your own thing?
But like why I was being invited to all of these things were because I actually like started these, like the other things like Girl Up and Girls Who Code, because they weren't there were no Girl Up clubs or Girls Who Code in Turkey. And so I think that's why like it kind of like got their attention. For example, with Girl Up, like Girl Up is I'd say a platform or now an organization under UN Foundation, and they are very, very massive. One of the best organizations I've ever worked with. Like again, I founded the first Girl Up Istanbul, like Girl Up Club in Turkey, Girl Up Istanbul, and that is why I got invited to like 6 panels by like Girl Up, I think, because they were like, okay, like we want to know how you did it, and
It's amazing,
again,
yeah.
it's a different country. It's we started during the pandemic, so it's kind of because Girl Up was always about being on the ground, working like physically together, and we couldn't do that. So it was very interesting. And again, with Girls Who Code Turkey as well, we were actually going to these schools and teaching, like literally teaching young girls how to do coding ourselves. So we had like one-to-one, like on the ground experience. I think that's one of the main reasons why I was getting invited. But at the same time, it was tricky, of course. And like, I was forming the group like with my friends, and like it's hard to balance, especially when you're a teenager. Like, okay, we want to do something, but we're also friends, or like, oh, we genuinely, like, none of us know where to start, what to do. So that was very tricky. And I feel like being on like these global platforms or like being invited to these global things also helps me because I saw how things work there, and I was able to kind of get that and like implement that for
Into
our
your own platforms,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
What was like that defining moment that's like, oh my god, this is way bigger than me right now?
Ooh, okay. So I think I'm not sure if this is going to be the response people are expecting, but I was talking about this actually today. I think it was like 2 years ago, if I'm not mistaken. Our Girls Who Code Turkey email got an email, and like we didn't know the name, like we couldn't like quite figure out, and then we clicked on it and saw that it was from a girl who like we gave like coding class too. Like, must have been like years ago, like I guess like 3 years ago. And she said that she did the uni exam and she will study engineering. And she said it was like the first step that made her want to do engineering was coming to our coding classes.
Wow.
Because she was like, before that, I didn't know, like, I actually had the, skill to do that or the confidence, or I didn't even know I was interested in it. And after our coding classes, because we didn't do like, oh, well, let's do like 1 60-minute with this school and be done with it. We actually worked with municipalities and the schools themselves. So it was like proper, kind of weekend school kind of a thing. So the fact that she is now going to be an engineer is mind-blowing to me and very defining.
You're fighting such a broad issue, gender equality, and you're inspiring so many future young people. What part of this fight resonates with you the most out of everything you've done?
It's so hard. I think just that's such a tricky question. Because I want to say everything. I can't. It's like telling a parent to choose between their favorite child, but just everything, and especially just the work that we do is like what resonates with me the most. The going out there, talking to people, expressing ourselves, trying to get into these hard conversations, reach people, and like create meaningful and sustainable change. That's just like I feel like that's what I'm. Yeah, that's just who I am.
It's essentially like getting out of your comfort zone, basically.
100%.
What boundaries have you had to learn to kind of protect your own mental health when you're doing all these incredible stuff?
Oh, that's such an easy question. Say no. I'm a people pleaser, like big time, and that's I feel like something I struggle with in my like personal life still. With my activist self, I learned how to get better because it wasn't just sustainable at all. Just learning how to say no because I was like, oh, I'm like crumbling and I have so much to do. And again, like this is not my full-time job. It's not a job. I'm also a student, who has like exams and like homeworks. Or I'm also I was a teenager. Now I'm a young woman. I have my social life. So it was really hard to balance everything. And I feel like for 2 years, I worked so much. Like thinking about back those 2 years, like best 2 years of my life, sure. But there was no such thing as mental health. There was no such thing as taking a break or like not attending to that one meeting that I really don't have to attend, or working hours. Oh, 3-4 a.m. Great. Like let's have that meeting. That's just not healthy nor sustainable. Because obviously it's okay, you have works to do. I'm not saying you should discard them, but once you're done, you're done. Just say no. Learn how to say no. If you have if you need to take some time off, even now sometimes I very openly say I need a little bit of a mental health break. Just please don't talk to me for 1 or 2 business days and then we'll be back. That's so important because otherwise, how are you supposed to help other people when you're not helping yourself?
Absolutely, for people who may be in the same position as you, right, that are juggling so many different things in their life, what would you tell them? How do you know it's time for them to rest instead of to push?
I feel that's just very personal, but at the same time, I feel you have that that gut telling you that oh, maybe you should rest. You should always listen to your gut feeling, always. And it's just, if you want to take a break and watch that movie, go for it. If you want to go for a run, go for it. We need to do that. Because again, how are we supposed to keep doing these things if we are miserable ourselves? Because I know it is so hard because I've personally struggled with it a lot. But what I've learned to do is, and maybe it could help some other people, I always have a little, to-do list for today. And if I will do everything that is on the list, don't get me wrong, but like without exception, like I will do all of them. But what I would do would be, oh, since I'm done and the day is not over, I might as well, like, do other things. And no, I'm like, oh, great. It's like 6 p.m. I'm done with everything. I'm going to the movies with friends. Like,
Absolutely, yeah.
so that's just very important.
A young person that may be in your shoes right now, that is listening, and that wants to take action for whether it's an issue, a global issue, a political issue, societal issue, what would you want them to know?
It's hard. It's gonna be hard. I mean, it'll get easier, I'll tell you that, once you have a thicker skin. But again, like, it is hard. You probably don't know where to start. You don't really know who to reach out to, what to say, what to do. And also, just, I don't know. I always go back to the imposter syndrome and like people kind of, being very mean, especially when you're doing something about like, again, gender equality. It's very much politicized and polarized. I've been like, attacked so many times, especially on social media because it's so easy. Those things will happen. I'm telling you, like from the get-go, they will happen. But at the same time, I feel like why I keep going is because we're genuinely working for a better like goal in a sense, it's so much bigger than you and me, and like I genuinely believe that every step counts. You shouldn't think, oh, okay, like I want to do this, but what'll happen? Like I'm just this and that. Like no, every step genuinely matters, because if I, like from my experience, if I didn't send that very incredibly small step, an email to UN Women, we wouldn't have he for she clubs in high schools in Turkey today, which is like crazy to think. Because, people actually wanted to join he for she once they were aware that there was something like he for she, and once they realized that it was something that they could be a part of. So it is very important to take that like step, and I think the hardest part is taking the first step itself. Just, be very resilient, I'll say that. Have a thick skin and just, do your research, find what you're passionate about and go for it. Like, you don't have to start with finding your own platform or organization. You can work with, NGOs or like international organizations or grassroots movements. You can just, even start by like you doing something on social media. Like anything counts. Anything for whatever you believe in and are willing to fight for counts. And again, like I want to add he for she's motto, which is, if not me, then who? If not now, then when? So internalize that.
Absolutely, that's so inspiring. Thank you so much. And just for our audience, if someone can walk away with just one thing from this conversation, what would it be?
I'm gonna say he for she's slogan once again. That's, I think, my go-to for sure. If not me, then who? If not now, then when? And I also want to add that please remember we're in this together. Genuinely.
Thank you for showing us that change doesn't require permission. It just requires courage, consistency, and just to take care of yourself along the way. So, Selin, where can people join you if they want to reach out or connect with you?
First of all, thank you so much for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure. I'm on Instagram. I'm also on X, but I'm not very, active there. So I feel like Instagram would be the way to go. And you can also find, like, people can also find my email from my Instagram. I'm not very good at DMs. I always forget to reply, but I'm very good at emails. So feel free to reach out from there.
Thank you so much, Selin.
So much.